Well, good morning, my ladies and my gents. Welcome to the inaugural edition of what I am going to call Coffee and Kits. It's a takeoff of the Sunday morning shows that several that I have seen have, and of course, got to have your coffee. It started, I first saw on uh, Tim's channel, Box Stock Garage, and I'll have links to each of these uh, in the description. But Tim over at Box Stock Garage, I saw his, and I made notes to be sure I got the titles right. He has one called Sunday Cars and Coffee, and I thought that's kind of fun. And later I caught up. Saw Joe over at Big Sky Model Workshop had Sunday morning model cars and coffee, and he told me that over Paul over at Left Coast Model Car Builds. I haven't had the pleasure of visiting with him yet, and I'm going to correct that here shortly. He has one that he actually started. I gathered from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong. Apparently, Paul started model cars and coffee type idea for Sunday mornings, and I thought I'd kind of throw my little thing into it. And to start, a little bit of backstory as to what all and why all. Some of y'all know this, some of y'all don't. Back February 2021, 4 years ago in a couple 3 weeks, I fell out in a little town called Kankakee, Illinois. I was doing flatbed trucking, and I'd been in an ice storm in Iowa, 40, 50 mile an hour winds, 10 below, 15 below zero, and snowing. If it had stuck to the ground, they would have had 12, 16 inches of snow, but it blew away so fast, but it was so cold. My truck was covered in ice, and this is on the second, third and 4th of February, and finally on the 5th, things broke, and I was able to get down to Kankakee to deliver late in the afternoon. This is Friday afternoon, and I slipped on the ice on the trailer and fell down between the front axle, front drive axle, I should say, on the truck, and the frame, and my body got unbalanced and I went sideways. You know, your knee is supposed to go like this. Mine did that. Basically, it turned about 90 degrees sideways. Something had to give. Usually what happens is, when something gives, it's either muscles, tendons, ligaments, or bone. Luckily, mine was bone. And I say luckily because I've got a friend up that lives up in Ohio. No, excuse me, she's up in Michigan. But she hurt the ligaments in her shoulder, the tendons in her shoulder, right along about the same time I did mine, and we've been keeping in touch ever since. And she's still having problems with it. And while I'm still having problems with the bone in my knee, it's because, I basically shattered it, but I'm not having the absolute. It takes forever for the ligaments and muscle and whatnot to heal. And it doesn't take that long for the bone to actually heal, but it may never be the same, but it does. So anyway, long story short, done with that. They put my knee back together up at Silver Cross Hospital in just outside of Joliet, Illinois, on the southwest corner of Chicagoland. And doctor didn't want to let me come home to Texas until he was sure that I wasn't going to have a blood clot problem on the trip home. It's 1,300 miles home. So end of February, my mom, bless her heart, she was 78 at the time, rented a car, bigger vehicle, drove from down here by Austin up to Chicago in 2 days, picked me up, and then we drove from Chicagoland to west of Lincoln, Nebraska, where the home office of the company I was driving for, and where they had taken my truck. I'd been in the hospital for right about a month. And they had taken my truck back to the yard and stored it there, and I was getting stuff out, some more clothes and whatnot, because I only had like a bag of stuff that I had packed when I first broke my leg. But then she drove us back home. And say what you will about old people driving, but this old lady drove 2,700 miles in 6 days. Half of it with a guy with a broken leg recovering from surgery. So, yeah, those are trucker miles. So, but anyway, I needed something to do, and I was having really bad days. My leg hurt. I was having neuropathy really bad at the time. Lots of physical therapy, going to see doctors, and I was not sleeping well. But I needed something to do besides playing on my phone, looking at the TV. So I took up building model cars and trucks at that time. And I managed to get one built. I had no idea what I was really doing, other than I knew I needed a hobby knife. I knew I needed some kind of scissors to cut, and I ruined a pair of Mom's Fisker's nippers, and I had to buy her a new set. But I had two testers paint sets. One was kind of military flats, and the other was automotive glosses that I was doing, and a spray paint that I had found. I think it was the Tamiya sand color, desert sand color, and that I was using. But I had to go outside to do it, but really had no idea what I was doing before I discovered glosses, before I discovered most of the stuff. It was just a down and dirty first time I'd ever, since I was in high school. So I built a sleeper cab, Freightliner cabover, and yeah, it it doesn't look bad, but I can see a lot that I could do to make it better now that I've learned. So let me get the camera turned around, and I'll kind of show off what I did. Well, for a first attempt, since I was back in the mid 70s, so we're talking a little bit of math in my head here, 45 years. That's not a bad first attempt. So anyway, let me get the camera turned around and we'll get back to it. Coffee. So, first attempt, building a model in 45 years. White Freightliner cabover, sleeper cab. And just to sit there and look at it from a distance, it doesn't look too bad. But when you look at it with any kind of a practiced eye, oh my goodness, it's a mess. But be that as it may, little bit of why I was having a bit of trouble with it, besides the fact I was wholly inexperienced. Part of the problem when I shattered my knee, it's called a tibial plateau fracture, and it was bad enough that it dislocated the little joint. There's a little bone that runs up the back of your leg called the fibula. It's a little like you've got the two bones in your arm, and one of them is the main bone and the other one is the little one, for example. And the fibula kind of helps guide your ankle and whatnot, but I broke the bone hard enough in my leg that it actually knocked that knuckle off, and they had to put it back in place as well. So, but in the process, I managed to damage the nerve bundle going to my foot on that side. Nothing wrong with the nerves in my foot, it's the nerve bundle in my leg, and I now have neuropathy in my foot. So it gets a little days that it's worse than others, and back then I was having all manner of issues, and I was awake more nights than I was asleep, because it felt like somebody took a cattle prod and tied it to a 10,000 volt power line and put it on against my foot and turned it on and left it on. So, but be that as it may, I wind up with this, and I wound up having more days that it hurt. I didn't sleep because my leg was hurting. So, and when the days that I was working on it, I wasn't all that great in my mind, but it was better than staring at the TV. But things that I did that I now know more. For example, get this picked up. We have the joint line of the cab to the sleeper, and the sleeper to the back of the cab. And oh no, that is, oh, that part is back here. Okay, never mind. But anyway, been a while. Been 4 years since I built this. So, but one of the problems is the pins on this kit, I think it's an AMT, are a little bit too long. And so the front tires, and I didn't know enough at the time to nip the pin, so the front tires didn't do that. I now know. I've got another AMT kit over here that's basically the same thing. But I got this fuel tank should have been on the other side, and I got the fuel caps upside down. A variety of other little bits and parts that I just didn't get right. Didn't do too bad on the back there. Got the, looking at it, got the tail lights are a mess, but the mud flap came out with that little bit there. The stacks aren't straight. Interior came out decent. I'll put up some pictures at the end of this, kind of give you a bit of a slideshow of some of the pictures that I took at the time. And open it up. It does open up and it does close. I have to kind of finagle to get it to close, but it does close. Get the engine. But little old Cummins, and got it all nice and together. I just, where's that, a Detroit? I don't remember. No, it's a Cummins. I can see the heads now. But just kind of spent some time painting on it, doing something. And so, but not too bad for my first attempt. Probably should have picked something a little bit easier, but having at the time been trucking for almost 35 years, when I broke my leg, I'm real familiar with the insides of trucks, and I thought, hey, that'd be pretty easy, and it got in a little over my head. So, but all in all, not too awful bad. Since learned that if you use the glue, the styrene glue on your headlights, windows, it fogs them. I now just put a little dab of clear gloss acrylic. I used the Tamiya. Put some in there and just stick the lights on, then paint over the top of the lights a little bit with some of the clear. It really brings it out, and you still have the chrome shine from in it. But the interior, it comes with a curtain that you can put that runs the full length between the cab and the sleeper. Problem is, if you want to do any detailing in the sleeper, don't do much because you can't really see in it. But if you do and you put that curtain there, you'll never see the sleeper again because you can't get into it to move it unless you do something to be able to take the top off. But whatever, be that as it may, I left that off. But yeah, there's a whole variety of stuff that I did wrong on it. Had all manner of trouble trying to get the steps on straight, and I didn't do that. But yeah. Oh, I see that I missed the marker lights on the side, missed painting them, but oh well. Like I said, for a first attempt, And some of the lessons that I learned from that, I'm going to put when I do get around to doing the sleeper cab Freightliner that I got sitting over here in the stash. That I have a lot better idea of what I want to do, how I want to do it, and so forth. So, but, well, so that is my Freightliner, my very first kit. Well, let's see. Coffee's running low. So, I'm going to go ahead and finish up this episode, my inaugural episode of what I'm calling Koffee and Kits. And future episodes, at least the first several, are going to be more of the kits that I've built that have meaning to my family and some of the stories behind them and why. But I'll get into them later. This, I'm not happy with the build. I'm looking at it. It's just right down below the phone here where I got it up on the mount. But not really happy with the build itself. I wasn't at the time. I knew that it wasn't good, but I was working with minimal tools, minimal paint, minimal brushes, minimal skill, and trying to remember, but I had a vision and it didn't quite work out, but I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot. And with this, by doing this, it gave me the opportunity, it gave me the realization that I had a hobby that I could come home to. I didn't have a hobby before. Didn't really have much of a life. Drive 2, 3, 4 months at a time, come home, do laundry, go to the grocery store, go visit my little brother, occasionally do a road trip to the Panhandle of Texas to see my kids, and go back, drive on the road 2, 3, 4 months. And but time that I wasn't doing stuff, I was looking at my phone, playing on my phone, watching TV, sitting there doing nothing. And I was going slowly nuts. And this gave me a hobby that I could do, and it basically let me get out my creative side. And rather pleased with that. And it led me, when my company, or when I hurt my knee back in June, wound up being off, this kind of got me to where, okay, let's get to it. And started working on this. And then back in October, I got a couple of guys to challenge me to start the channel. And one of them told me, I've already subscribed. I'm waiting for a video. So now then I had to start researching, how do I do it? How do I put a video on YouTube? How do I edit a video? Oh, I've got iMovie on my phone. And so I started researching that, and wow, I can actually do this. Hey! And so I started that about the same time that my company got sold, and like I said, that company wound up leaving me. So now I've got this through my channel. I have met a bunch of y'all out there, talked to a bunch of y'all. I managed to make, well, good acquaintances, if not friends yet. Finding that this is truly an amazing community that we've got out here among us, the model builders and people creating YouTube videos about it and whatnot. So, yeah, it's, I wound up pivoting out of trucking and into this. And while trucking was quite literally a childhood dream, I had kids wanted to. I want to be president. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a scientist. I want to be a truck driver. Well, I spent just about 40 years staring through the window of a truck, driving all over this country. Got to see a lot of stuff. And I got to live out a childhood dream. How many of y'all can actually say that you spent most of your adult life working at a job that was quite literally the dream that you wanted to do when you were 5 or 6 years old? I'm blessed, and I've made and lost friends along the way. That's just the nature of working in a solitary job. But now I've made some new friends that actually seem a little more worthwhile than some of the people I've met in the past. So to all of y'all out there, thank you much. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your support. And okay, this old fart has rambled on long enough, and I'm about run out of coffee, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm going to put a few photos of what I did with it, as I was building it back in the day, and a bit of a slideshow when this is done. So for now, B-Tex signing out.